Lapbook. Jonathan Giovanni Castillo García, Club 211. Teacher Gerardo Iván Vega Sandoval. Lapbook is The Prince and the Pauper. Author is Samuel Langorne. Clemens Vitorino honor is pseudonym. Mark Twain was an American writer, speaker, and humorist. Characters: Edward, Tom, John Canty, Mother Tom, Hungry Hitford, Aaron Tate, Marias Hindon, Henry Howe Hindon. History: a magical day in London, two boys are born into two different families and they who happen to look exactly like one another. One boy, Tom Canty, is poor, other two boy, Prince Edward of Wales, is so broadly rich. Fast forward a bit and Tom is a young boy living in the slums of London. He has abusive father and grandmother, and kid mother and sisters, and a pretty sad life, but he has a dream. One day he wants to meet a real life. After dreaming about living in the lap of luxury, Tom makes his way to Westminster Palace. One day, when he gets a little too close to the gate, a guard attacks him. Lucky for Tom, this attracts the attention of the prince, who rebukes the guard and lets our little pauper into the palace. It's his dream come true. Surprisingly enough, the two little boys hit it off. Turns out they both have pretty terrible fathers, so which goes that something to bond over. Eventually, Tom gets to the prince about his life, and the prince thinks this sounds amazing. To know what's coming next, they decide to swap lives, who's for a little while. But right in the middle of this, the prince storms up, determined to discipline the war with Rustam. What he was expecting was the big mistake for Tom and kicked out of the palace because no one could recognize him without his fancy clothes. Now he's who's another poor person on the street. Some first days surprises are pretty hard because he doesn't know any of the etiquette or producer of princehood. It's so bad that he drinks the water meant for washing his hands and stuff his pockets with nuts at his royal dinner crazy. Being a smart kid, Edward does make it back to palace, but no one believes that he is the real prince. The crowd is who's about already to dare him to princes. One means kingdom comes to save the day. Also, everyone gets pretty distracted when it's announced that King Harry has died. Today makes Edward the king as wisdom you can know, except for that while his father is the king. Oh yeah, and now who knows that Edward is the prince. So Tom is the one the royal court turns to. Tom's first asking is to Henry, reign of terror we parodied a bunch of people who have been condemned to Christ's deaths. Back to Tom Canty. After a long and involved crossing ceremony, Tom gets to know the boring legal matters of being kings. He has some improvement in mind, but no one wants to listen to him after that. Tom meets his working boy, Humphrey Marlowe, instead of having him work. However, he uses the kid as a way to hide information about everything that's going on in the court. Meanwhile, Miss Hendon has been searching for Prince Edward who has been taken hostage by John Canty. Neither John nor any of his gang of friends believes the boy is actually the king, and they make fun of him when they try to make Edward big for food. He manages to get the games in the rooms and runs away, trying to refuge him in a farm. Prince. After eating a good meal drill, however, Edward gets cornered with the thieves again when he runs into the goods. He comes across Hermit. Normally they call Rick a good dude, but his hermitage is crazy. Actually, he was driven insanely actions of none other than the prince that King Henry. Sometimes it's not a good thing to be famous. This is over with man's decides the only safe place to his home. Henry had his space good to get a royal homecoming, but instead everyone pretends not to know him. Even his pursues Lady Edith, his treacherous brother Hugo North Miles, and Edward in Cairo. Mary Miles is sentenced to 3 hours in the stocks, but since he volunteers to make the prince lazy for him, ever see what a good and a can prince he is. So when trees others assault him, will he is locked up. When all of that is done, it's time to head back to London. Miles and Edward get their house in time because they're already the Gian Partington's coronation. Tom is having a great dream, and is finally inserted in the role as king, or at least he having a great time until his mom showed up and reminded him how horrible he was of ignoring Edward is coroned, and now it's time justice. Humphrey Marlowe brings Miles Hennon to Edward, and far after they celebrate their romance, Edward makes Miles a noble with tons of honors, land, and gold. Tom Canty does get let off either. He else gets a burst of fancy, expensive dealers, and pile of money. So what it's up, my brother Hugo runs a wine store Europe, and this level minds to Mary Lady Edith terms that this priest and King Edward is a previous wasn't King Everton. He only reigns for a few years. They live happily ever after, and the lesson Edward this. Then